Good morning. Can you hear me? सर आप लोग सुन पा रहे हैं क्या? आर यू एबल टू हियर मी? ओके, या we'll start the class. Just 2 minutes. So today we will start the discussion on clutch. Just wait. So shall we start the class? Okay, so I will share the screen with you people. We'll start with the new topic, that is nothing but the clutch. Okay. So for clutch, we must understand the purpose. I hope that some small discussion was there in the on the clutch during your theory of machines class. Am I correct? So what is the purpose of the clutch? Okay. So purpose of clutch. So sir, you have studied clutch during your theory of machine course, and I hope you have designed some clutches as well. So what is the purpose of the clutch? Disengage the shaft. Okay. Engage and disengage engines. Exactly. So purpose of clutch is connect or disconnect. One, connect or disconnect the engine from the transmission system. Connect the engine from transmission system. So this is the first purpose. Then second is allow the engine to take up, allow the engine to take up the driving loads of the vehicle, the driving loads of the vehicle gradually. That means when we start the engine, the engine will not develop the rated power at once. It will gradually do that. That is first thing. So in that case, better to disconnect the clutch, or you can say disengage the clutch and then start the engine. So that is a good idea. Most of the automotive manufacturers or the most of the automobile companies, they give that kind of advice that when you start the engine, you press the clutch pedal to disengage it and then you start the vehicle, and then gradually you allow the engine to take up the vehicle load. Okay, so this is the purpose. So we by and large we say that the clutch is used for connecting and disconnecting the engine from the uh, transmission system. The second part is where is the location of the clutch. So location of clutch, basically clutch is located between engine and gearbox. Okay, so it is going to be one assembly wherein the flywheel is also a part of clutch. So what are the different you can say types of clutches which are used in the automobile engineering? So various clutches used in an automobile. One is, so various types of clutches used in automobile. Sorry. Automobile are, the first one is the friction clutch. Second one is the centrifugal clutch. Third one is the magnetic clutch. Fourth one is the hydraulic clutch. So usually these are the types of clutches which are used in the automotive clutches. Apart from that, can you name any of the application where you use the clutch? सर क्लच कहाँ यूज करते हैं? Apart from automobile, have you seen any application where clutch is used? So if you have not you can say seen, then please try to give the try to give the name of the machine tools where the clutch is used and you have used that. If you, I think you have used it somewhere, you please remember that. Okay, so I will shift to presentation to show the location of the clutch and other things. So here you can say that the purpose of clutch to connect and disconnect. इसको जरा थोड़ा सा शिफ्ट कर देते हैं. हाँ, this is the engine, and here you can have the transmission shaft and everything is shown. The to connect and disconnect engine power flow to the transmission system. So that is basically the purpose. Here the location of clutch in transmission system is, this is the engine, this is the flywheel, okay, and this complete location which is there in the green color, sorry, red box, that is basically showing the clutch and flywheel assembly. So this is the clutch, this is the clutch operating lever. Here the tank is shown, that means the clutch operation is done by hydraulic means. When you press the clutch pedal, then the clutch gets disengaged. So this is the location of the clutch, and the green color box is the gearbox, okay, of the vehicle. So this is how the clutch is connected. Please note that this is the fly end of the engine, sorry, flywheel end of the engine, whereas this is the crankshaft pulley end of the engine. This is 4-cylinder inline engine. This is not the V engine, what is shown in this particular figure. So the requirement of clutch is, the requirement of the clutch is a torque transmission. The clutch must be able to transmit maximum torque of the engine. That means whatever the maximum torque which is generated by the engine, that has to be transmitted by the clutch. Usually the max torque point is taken as the design torque, and this design torque has to be multiplied by the factor of the safety. And once you get the design torque TD, so one torque which you want to transfer, and the design torque is the one for which the clutch is to be designed. That means for some excessive capacity, in case of any unpredicted load which comes on the clutch, then it should not fail, because most of the time the clutch fails due to the heat generation, because the basic purpose of the clutch is it consists of the two parts which are bind together, and power transmission is happening by way of the friction, okay. So we have seen that friction plays a very important role. All the time we say that the friction has to be minimum, as less as possible, but there are certain applications like brakes and clutches where we say that the friction is desired for power transmission in case of clutch, and for energy absorption in case of brake. So friction is not always bad. Please understand this. Okay. Now the gradual engagement, the clutch should engage gradually to avoid sudden jerk. So you might have seen that when you when you drive somebody's vehicle which you are not used to drive. Let us say you are driving the bike of your friend. Then your friend has got certain kind of you can say compatibility with his bike. Whereas if he gives that bike to you for driving, then in that case you may feel that there is a sudden engagement, and initially for let us say 100 meters of distance or 200 meters of the distance, you will not be very comfortable with driving, and once you set up your mind according to the setting of the vehicle, then you become comfortable. So most of the time the clutch, if they are engaging suddenly, then in that case sudden jerks may take place, and this is the phenomena which I just now explained you, that if you are driving somebody else's vehicle, then you do not know the clutch setting, and the moment you release the clutch pedal, then suddenly the clutch gets engaged and you feel the jerk. Okay, so that is the idea regarding gradual engagement. Now heat dissipation, the clutch should be able to dissipate a large quantity of heat which is generated during clutch operation due to friction. This is very obvious that since the power transmission is by the friction, by way of friction, so we have to be careful regarding the heat generation, and most of the time the failure of the clutch happens due to heat generation. The vehicle becomes hot. Okay. Now then the dynamic balancing, the clutch should be dynamically balanced. This is particularly required in case of high speed engine clutches, because we know that the imbalance increases with the speed of the vehicle that we have seen. So we have to be careful whenever the clutch is to be fitted. Then vibration damping, the clutch should be suitable. The clutch should have suitable mechanism to damp vibrations because it is directly connected to the flywheel. The engine vibrations, they are transmitted to the clutch. So you need to be careful that there has to be some damping mechanism which is to be provided. So to eliminate the noise during power transmission. Then the size, the clutch should be as small as possible so that it occupies the minimum space. Usually the size of the clutch is equal to the size of the flywheel which you see in the engine. So this is the basic minimum requirement of the clutches. Then used, okay, then disconnecting the engine with gearbox when starting the engine, when changing the gears, and when stopping the engine. That means whenever you want to disconnect the engine from the transmission system, you have to press the clutch pedal. Otherwise the clutch will always be there in the engaged condition. Okay, so when clutch pedal is pressed, the clutch and transmission is disengaged from the engine. So one has to take care that when the clutch will be always in engaged position, the moment you press the clutch pedal, then it gets disengaged. So here in this photo there are two positions they are shown. This is basically for disengaging because this fellow is pressing the clutch pedal. If you see that he has completely pressed the clutch pedal. So usually you might have seen that on the vehicles it is written, or most of the time the when you give your vehicle for servicing and there is a problem of the sudden jerk of the vehicle when you change the gear, the service engineer will ask you whether you drive the vehicle by in half clutch. हाफ क्लच का मीनिंग ऐसा है कि कुछ लोगों को आदत रहती है, some people they are used to press the clutch in a half way. That means they put their leg on the clutch pedal, and because of their weight, or you can say some force which they apply on the clutch pedal, so clutch is always in half engaged position. So in that case, there will be a problem of fuel efficiency. There will be a problem of the clutch material to or clutch getting hot, because there will be slippage between the driving and driven plates of the clutch. So please be careful whenever you drive the vehicle, specifically when you drive the vehicle on highway. Please remove the foot from the clutch pedal and drive it in the full engaged position, so that will give you better fuel economy, better performance, or better pickup, I will say, or acceleration performance. Now with your foot off the pedal, the clutch is engaged to the engine. So please follow these particular kinds of tip when you drive the vehicle on the highway. Okay, sir, is there any doubt as far as this is concerned, the initial theory of the clutch is concerned? Sir, please let me know. Do you have any doubt, any concern as far as the initial theory of the clutch is concerned? चलो किसी को हाँ क्लियर, चलो ठीक है, आगे बढ़ते हैं. ओके. Then clutch system, basically how the clutch system it operates. It has shown, it has explained this thing beautifully by this particular picture. The clutch actuation mechanism, please understand that this is the mechanism, or there can be hydraulic means for actuating the clutch mechanism. So when you press the clutch pedal is free, so in that case there is a power transmission from engine to gearbox. The moment you press the clutch pedal, there you will see that there is a separation. ये यहाँ आपका separation बताया हुआ है clutch का. Clutch is not connected to the engine. So this is basically the simple figure which explains that what exactly is done. Please note that this is the free pedal, and this is basically the pedal with the application of the force on the clutch pedal. So this is the way, this is the only component which remains continuously engaged. Okay, so the first time you press the pedal, it becomes deactivate. So this is the mechanism of the clutch. Then the clutch actuation mechanism, you can have the clutch operating mechanism transfers the force exerted by the driver at the clutch pedal to the clutch and either engages or disengages the clutch. The clutch actuation mechanism can be of three types. One is mechanical, then cable clutch, then hydraulic clutch. Most of the time, which you can say we use the mechanical actuation kind of mechanism for actuating the clutch. That means for engaging and disengaging, we use the mechanical clutch. In some cases, you can use the hydraulic clutch as well, where you apply the force to the clutch pedal, which will activate the hydraulic fluid in the system and thereby creating the pressure, thereby disengaging the clutch. Okay, so mechanical clutch is where the driver's foot effort is transmitted to the clutch through a set of levers and linkages. Usually, we say that there may be some lag between the moment you press the clutch pedal and the disengagement of the clutch. But still it is working and it is in use. Now the cable clutch is where the driver's foot effort is transmitted to clutch through a cable, the previous mechanism which I have shown. The hydraulic clutch is this cable clutch. You might have seen that this is used in most of the scooters. Usually पुराने स्कूटर में रहता था, बजाज के स्कूटर में, that most of the time the clutch cable used to get broken where you fit that particular you can say the clutch end to the clutch lever. Okay, how many of you have driven the old Bajaj scooter with gears? I am talking about the scooter with gear. Has anybody got any experience of using that? सर किसी को एक्सपीरियंस है क्या कि स्कूटर चलाने का जिसमें हैंड से वी यूज टू चेंज द गियर्स? हैव यू ड्रिवन दैट व्हीकल बाय एनी चांस? Because nowadays you won't see any kind of the vehicle or geared scooter on the road where you require to manually change the gears. So Yash has said no, Atharva has said no. Anybody else? किसी के घर में पुराना स्कूटर नहीं है क्या? किसी के भी घर में नहीं है? Okay, so those who are having the old scooter, they just can try. Okay, Prajwal, he said, I had it, sir. Okay, so nowadays we do not use the scooter with the gear system. See, if you go to the RTO, you get two types of licenses. One is the driving license of two-wheeler with gears, and one is without gear. So that with gear was specifically related to the Bajaj scooter because the gears used to we have to change or rather the driver has to have to change the gear by pulling the clutch lever, which is connected to the clutch by this cable, where whatever he is talking about here. ये जो यहाँ जो बात कर रहा है ना, ये क्लच केबल का, तो पहले जो स्कूटर ड्राइव करते थे उनमें एक ये था कि अगर आपको गियर चेंज करना है तो आपको पहले क्लच लीवर अपने तरफ पुल करना होता था and then you used to change the gear, and there used to be four gears to the scooter. The first one is you have to rotate it the anti-clockwise, then that is the first gear, then again you pull the gear lever and then move it clockwise, then that used to be second gear, third gear and fourth gear. So sir, पहला gear और बाकी बचे हुए तीन gear ये उल्टे रहते थे. Okay, like what for some bikes you say that you change the gear by using foot. So the gear changing mechanism is there in the foot, but here you have to change the gear by using the hand levers. Okay, तो सर अगर किसी के पास पुराना स्कूटर है तो आप गियर चेंज करके देखिएगा, इट यूज टू बी वेरी हार्ड। मोस्ट ऑफ द टाइम क्या होता था कि द एंड विच इज फिटेड टू द clutch lever, that used to get break because of the fatigue, and the failure used to be sudden. So in that case, your scooter is, let us say you have started the scooter, you have moved certain distance first gear, and then you suddenly change it to second gear, and if by chance that clutch cable breaks, then you have to drive that vehicle in second gear only, because there was no means, so you have to struggle to change it to neutral. So, but that used to be a very difficult task. Why I used in Bajaj Auto? Yeah, Bajaj Auto as well. Right now, अभी three wheeler में भी use करते हैं. But we have driven the vehicle. Specifically, I have driven the vehicle. This scooter, Priya scooter, which used to have only three gears. So, and I faced this problem so many times. Even means my friends also, they were having LNL Vespa and all those vehicle scooters where you have to change the gears by using the cable clutch. Okay, so that was the thing which was in use previously. Now, as rightly pointed out by Durge, that today if you see the autos, most of the autos, they are having the clutches which can be operated by clutch cable. Then the hydraulic clutch, where driver's foot effort is transferred to a hydraulic oil medium, which in turn operates the clutch through master cylinder and slave cylinder. Pedal efforts are lower and does not require clutch pedal free play adjustment. Okay, because that is being taken care by the springs which are there in the mechanism. This is the hydraulic clutch mechanism. Is very similar to what we use in hydraulic brake system. Okay, but I am not that much in favor of the hydraulic clutch. The reason being that you have to have the master cylinder and then transmit the power. So the number of components are increasing, and over and above that, you have to look at the hydraulic oil which is used for transmission of the clutch foot effort. So you have to take care of the hydraulic fluid. So that is basically the idea. But anyway, mechanical clutches, they use the linkages for engaging and disengaging the clutch. So this is basically we discuss about the actuation mechanism. Now this picture will show you the clutch in the engaged position, the clutch mechanism. This is basically the flywheel, and flywheel will act as one of the clutch plates. Okay, so this is right now it is in engaged position. In the next figure it is shown, the see, this is the clutch is disengaged, this is engaged, and this is the next one is disengaged condition. So this is the beautiful animation. Then we will be discussing the basic parts of the clutch. तो सर मैं फिर से अभी अपने ब्लैक बोर्ड पे जाता हूं, तो हम लोग सर यहाँ लिखेंगे थोड़ा सा क्लच के बारे में कि कौन से कंपोनेंट्स रहते हैं क्लच में. सो वन इम्पॉर्टेंट थिंग वी नीड टू राइट डाउन इज clutch is always in engage condition to disengage the clutch. Driver has to apply efforts to clutch pedal. Okay. Now parts of the clutch. So what are the essential parts of the clutch? Parts of clutch. So clutch essentially consists of two members. So it is essentially consist of two members. One is basically the pressure plate. These are also called as the driving disc. And the other one, that is friction disc. Okay, so usually the flywheel will act as a pressure plate. So the flywheel or pressure plate are drive or driving members. The here we can write down the flywheel or pressure plates are driving members. That means the power from engine will first be given to the pressure plate or the flywheel. They are attached to engine crankshaft and rotate with it. So this makes the idea clear. They are attached to the engine crankshaft. This is crankshaft, not cross section, engine crankshaft, and rotate with it and rotate with it. So naturally the power will first come to the flywheel or the pressure plate. Now coming here, so it is basically, it is a driven member. It is a driven member, also called as driven plate or driven disc. Also called as driven plate or driven disc. So generally the size oblique dia of these plates is around 305 millimeter. If you are talking about the four-wheeler clutch plate, these are splined to clutch shaft. These are splined to clutch shaft or transmission input shaft or transmission, that means gearbox, transmission input shaft. तो सर आपको ये समझना है कि क्रैंकशाफ्ट को जो लगे हुए प्लेट्स है, दे आर प्रेशर प्लेट्स, समटाइम्स दे आर कॉल्ड एज द ड्राइविंग डिस्क. So if you use driving disc, that is the good thing, because then we are very clear कि driving disc अगर बोल दिया, so these are directly connected to the crankshaft, and the other one is the driven disc. These are connected to the input shaft of the gearbox or the transmission system. Okay, both shaft and disc turn together, but the friction disc can slide back and forth on the shaft spline. Please understand that this is important. Both shaft and disc turn together, but the friction disc can slide back and forth on shaft splines. तो सर याद रखना ये जो है, ये मान लो, जस्ट आई एम जस्ट गिविंग यू द आइडिया दैट इफ दिस इज द ड्राइविंग शाफ्ट, तो इसके ऊपर जो प्लेट है सर, इसके ऊपर जो प्लेट है, ये ड्राइविंग, ये है आपकी प्रेशर प्लेट, दिस इज ड्राइविंग शाफ्ट। और जस्ट आई एम जस्ट टेलिंग यू द आइडिया, ये कैसे अरेंजमेंट होता है दैट वी विल सी। सो इसके ऊपर जो प्लेट लगी हुई है, तो सर ये जो शाफ्ट है ये स्प्लाइंड है सर। ओके, सो इसके ऊपर जो प्लेट्स लगी हुई है, दीज आर दी driven plates, can slide on transmission input shaft. That means you need to transmit power from here to here. So this is the, if you engage this, then the power will get transmitted. So usually these plates, the driving disc and the driven disc, they are connected together in the clutch. When you apply the force or the effort to the clutch pedal, then it will become disengaged. Is this clear, sir? क्योंकि क्लच में सर मोस्ट ऑफ द टाइम द प्रॉब्लम कम्स फ्रॉम देयर के ड्राइविंग कौन सा है, ड्रिवन कौन सा है, फिर इसको कैसे करेंगे, बिकॉज इन प्रॉब्लम्स वी रिक्वायर दैट। आगे बढ़े क्या सर, ये समझ में आया? थोड़ा सा जनरल बातें हम लोग लिख लेते, देन बाद में फिर क्लच डिजाइन की बातें करते। सर आपको समझ में आया क्या ये? हैव यू अंडरस्टूड दिस? ओके, चलो सर फिर नेक्स्ट पेज पे चलते हैं। थोड़ी सी सर जनरल बातें हम लोग क्लच की कर लेते, देन बाद में एक्चुअल प्रैक्टिकल बातें करेंगे, बिकॉज ये समझना जरूरी है आपको क्लच डिजाइन के लिए। तो क्लच का डिजाइन कैसे करना है, नाउ द नेक्स्ट पॉइंट, the transmission input shaft has the same center line as the engine crankshaft। सर ये समझना जरूरी है, अगर ये सेंटर मिसमैच हो गया तो आपका जो क्लच प्लेट का जो वियरिंग है वो अनइवन होगा। ओके, एंड देयर मे बी द इश्यू ऑफ बैलेंसिंग एज वेल। सो दिस इज द important point, though we write down in one single line, but this becomes practically orienting and making the center line same is very very difficult task. Please try to understand this, that आपका व्हीकल माउंटिंग का और इंजन माउंटिंग का डायमेंशंस इतने परफेक्ट होने चाहिए सो दैट देयर शुड नॉट बी एनी काइंड ऑफ मिसमैच बिटवीन द सेंटर लाइन, इट हैज टू बी इन द टॉलरेंस रीजन। ओके, सो दो इट लुक्स टू बी अ सिंपल लाइन, but in company the major issue is the major issue happens in the alignment. Alignment is very very important as far as the automobile components are concerned. Please note that there are so many components which have to be fitted in the automobile, and maintaining the tolerance tracking and maintaining the alignment, that becomes a great issue. It is the same issue with the front end auxiliary drive system. That means अगर एक पुली थोड़ी सी भी आगे पीछे हो गई तो समझ लेना सर कि आपका जो ये है बेल्ट है उसका लाइफ आपको अगर 50,000 किलोमीटर मिल रहा है so it will drastically reduce down to, let us say, 20,000 kilometer, because all the time it is going to get subjected to some kind of unknown loading and for which it is not designed. So अगर वो कोई component unknown loading के लिए डिजाइन ही किया नहीं है, so it will last till your factor of safety. After that it is going to break down, and you know that the fatigue, you can say fatigue damage is cumulative. It is not that you once subjected and it is over. No, it is cumulative. So damage accumulation happens, and if the damage accumulation happens, it is going to break. So have to be very careful. आप जो सर मेट्रोलॉजी में जो अलाइनमेंट वगैरह पढ़ते हैं ना, so वो सर काफी इंपॉर्टेंट चीजें हैं which has to be followed, which are to be followed in the company. अगर आपने नहीं फॉलो किया, so then consequently आपको धीरे धीरे उसके साइड इफेक्ट दिखने को देखने मिलेंगे. Okay, now the driving torque is produced, the driving torque is produced when friction disk and pressure disk, when friction disk and pressure disk are brought in contact with each other, are brought in contact with each other. The power being transmitted from driving plate to driven member is by friction. Then the power transmission is by means of friction. So friction plays a very important role. Now then, how to increase the driving torque? So driving torque can be increased by. So what are the ways to increase the driving torque? One, the first one, increasing effective radius of contact, because then if there is more contact, the chances of slippage will be more. So increasing effective radius of contact, effective radius of contact. Second, increasing coefficient of friction. So increasing coefficient of friction. Third, increasing the clamping force or holding the component together. Increasing the clamping force or holding force, because if you do not hold or held the plates in contact with each other firmly, you can't get the required power transmission. Then increasing, the last one, increasing the number of contacting surface, increasing the number of contacting surfaces. So now if you see these four components, so first one is the effective radius, because F into R, torque transmission torque, is equals to F into R is the radius. Then that will increase the torque. Then increasing the coefficient of friction, because the coefficient of friction will increase the force of holding the plates together and the force which is required for power transmission. So that mu will be there. So you need to increase that. Then increasing the clamping force or the holding force. That means the two plates which are one is driving and the other one is driven. They have to be held together by some strong holding force and increasing the number of contacting surfaces. This will give you an idea. So why you have to have the multi-plate clutch. Okay. So now various types of clutches we have already discussed. So now we will be discussing the first thing, that is the friction clutch, or the first classification, that is the friction clutch. And in this friction clutch we will be discussing the first one is single plate clutch. So have you studied, sir, single plate clutch? सर आपने पढ़ा हुआ है क्या ये सिंगल प्लेट क्लच? और क्लच डिजाइनिंग की थियरी भी आपने पढ़ी होंगी सर. पढ़ी हुई है, चलो गुड. सो सर मैं आपको सिंगल प्लेट क्लच का दिस इज द diagram of the single plate clutch. This is the engine shaft as we seen earlier. This is the splined gearbox input shaft or transmission shaft. This is what we have to design in the, you can say, practical, whatever we have done. Okay, now these are the springs which are used to generate, which is used to generate the clamping force. So that these plates should be in contact with each other. So flywheel will act as the driving member, then the plate which is there will be acting as the driven member. So this is having single plate clutch. Both the sides the friction material is there. Here it is written clutch plate. Here the friction lining is there. That means friction, you can say फ्रिक्शन मटेरियल. सो अगर इसमें ये दिया हुआ है क्या वर्किंग, एक मिनट वो डिसएंगेज कंडीशन में देखता हूँ अगर है तो. नहीं है सर ये डिसएंगेज वाला. तो सर अगर आप क्लच पेडल अगर प्रेस करेंगे, सो दिस प्लेट विल मूव ऑन द अदर साइड. तो ये जो सर ये पूरी असेंबली है ये बाहर के साइड में मूव होंगी, so that it will lose the contact with this, it will lose the contact with the driving plate. So this is basically the single plate clutch assembly. What it says is that the disc clutches, this type of clutch consists of two discs. One disc is rigidly fixed to the driving shaft and other disc is fitted to the driven shaft. एक मिनट, इसके पहले वाली स्लाइड में क्या लिखा है देखते हैं. ये तो क्लासिफिकेशन हो गया सर फ्रिक्शन क्लचेस का. पॉजिटिव कॉन्टैक्ट क्लच ये बाद में देखेंगे सर हम लोग. तो सर अपन वी विल सी the single plate clutch total formula and other things in the next class, where we have to draw the figure and we have to see how, why we have to shift it to the multi-plate clutch. So anybody is having any doubt or wanted to ask any practical issue related to the clutches in the vehicle, so please do ask. So we'll stop here. In the next class we'll do the detailed analysis of the single plate clutch, multi-plate clutch, their design theory and other things sir. तो सर किसी को कुछ डाउट है क्या? Sir, anybody is having any doubt, please do ask. Otherwise, we'll stop here. Okay, so over from my side, you may leave the meeting. if you do not have any doubt.
Excuse me, sir.
Yeah, please, Shravya.
Sir, what will be the syllabus for mid semester?
What will be the syllabus for
Mid semester exam.
when we have mid-semester examination? I have forgotten.
Sir, from 2nd March.
From 2nd of March.
Yes, sir.
Okay, but before that you have to give the objective type test. So tomorrow I will able to tell you. तो सर 2nd of March तक के मैडम जितना भी पोर्शन होता है उतना हम लोग एग्जाम को रख देंगे, भले ही क्लच नहीं रखेंगे। ब्रेक तक के पोर्शन जो है that we can keep it for the mid sessional examination. Will it be okay?
Okay.
Yeah, but before that we have to give the objective type test. तो आज मैं देखता हूँ और एक दो दिन में आपको बता भी देता हूँ so that कि you will be ready and regular क्लास में हम लोग ऑब्जेक्टिव टाइप टेस्ट ले लेंगे, ठीक है?
Okay, sir.
या ओके, थैंक यू। अच्छा, मैंने आपको क्या क्या नोट्स में क्या क्या भेजा है मुझे अभी याद नहीं है। सर मैडम आपको ब्रेक्स का भेज दिया है ना?
Sir, you have sent it to steering system only.
Which system?
Steering system.
Steering system I have sent ना?
Yes, sir. Till there only you have sent. Brake is not. No, sir. You have not sent the brake.
मैडम मैंने गियर बॉक्स का आपको भेजा है, मैंने सबको भेजा है, मेरे पास है। लेट मी चेक। एक मिनट मैडम होल्ड कीजिए।
हाँ.
मैक्सिमम तो भेजा है मैडम, सिर्फ आपका यही लैब का मैंने भेजा है। ये तो ब्रेक का तो भेजा है मैडम मैंने आखिरी क्लास तक के।
Sir, brake.
24 क्लास तक के मैंने भेजा है मैडम।
Sir, return notes you have sent, sir, but PPT is not there.
ओके, पीपीटी किसका नहीं भेजा है मैंने? ब्रेक का, ठीक है भेज दूंगा।
Okay.
ब्रेक का ही तो नहीं भेजा है मैंने ये तो। हाँ ठीक है, ब्रेक का भेज दूंगा, उसमें कोई बड़ी बात नहीं। ये टर्निंग सर्कल डीएस, ठीक है मैडम, ब्रेक का भी भेज दूंगा, कोई इशू नहीं है। टायर्स का भेज दिया है मैंने, ट्रांसमिशन सिस्टम का, पावर स्टीयरिंग का भेज दिया, स्टीयरिंग सिस्टम का भेज दिया। ठीक है, मैं ये गियर बॉक्स का भेज देता हूँ आपको और पीपीटी ब्रेक्स का भेज देता हूँ, ठीक है ना?
हाँ, थैंक यू।
ठीक है, आज ही भेज देता हूँ अभी। ओके ओके, या आई विल क्लियर, डोंट वरी।